You're looking for a backup power solution that won't turn your office or home studio into a juggling act every time the lights flicker, right? You want something that just plugs in, does its job, and lets you get back to work without a parade of beeping alarms and confusing menus. Most of the time the biggest worry isn't whether a UPS can handle the numbers on the label, it's whether it will actually stay silent while you're on a video call, keep your router alive long enough for a graceful shutdown, and not eat up a small fraction of your budget for a feature you'll never use. That hesitation is what I felt before I dug into the Tripp Lite SmartPro 3000VA, and I think the same questions will be running through your mind. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let me paint a picture of the environment where a unit like this makes sense. I run a small graphic design business from a rented loft, and my setup includes a desktop with a high-end GPU, a dual-monitor array, a network-attached storage box, and a modest UPS that's been on its last legs for years. When the city's grid hiccups during a summer storm, my router goes down, my storage box loses power, and the desktop shuts off abruptly, sometimes corrupting files. I needed a UPS that could bridge the gap between the outage and the moment I can safely shut everything down, without turning the whole desk into a noisy, heat-producing tower. That's the real-world problem the Tripp Lite SmartPro is built to solve. Who should seriously consider this unit? If you run a workstation that houses a decent CPU, a mid-range graphics card, and a few peripherals, and you can't afford to lose a half hour of unsaved work, the 3000VA rating gives you a solid buffer. It's also a good fit for small server rooms where you have a handful of rack-mountable devices that need to stay online long enough for a proper shutdown. The fact that it's a 2U rack unit means it slides into a standard rack without taking up precious floor space, which is a win for anyone who's already crowded with networking gear. Home office users who rely on a single computer, a Wi-Fi router, and perhaps a VoIP phone will also get enough runtime to avoid a crash, especially if they pair it with a sensible load management plan. On the flip side, if you're a gamer who only cares about a few minutes of power to finish a match, or you have a tiny laptop that can run off its own battery for the entire outage, you'll probably be overpaying for the extra capacity. Likewise, anyone looking for a portable, battery pack-style UPS for on-the-go use will find the 2U form factor a poor match. It's meant to stay put in a rack or a shelf. So the sweet spot is the small to medium business or serious home office user who needs reliability without stepping into enterprise-grade pricing. Now let's talk about the practical strengths that become evident once you actually plug it in. The first thing I noticed was the quietness. Many UPS units announce every voltage dip with a loud alarm that can startle anyone in the room. The Tripp Lite SmartPro has a relatively low volume alert that only becomes noticeable if you're right next to it, which is a subtle but welcome difference when you're on a conference call. The unit also supports both SNMP and an onboard web interface, meaning you can monitor battery health, load percentage, and runtime from any browser on your network. In my case, I set up a simple dashboard that emails me when the battery health drops below 80%, so I never have to guess when a replacement is due. Another real-world win is the automatic voltage regulation, IVR. In my building, the power quality can swing between mild brownouts and occasional surges. The IVR smooths those fluctuations before they even hit the inverter stage, which not only extends the life of the UPS itself but also protects connected equipment from the wear and tear of constantly adjusting to voltage spikes. Over a few weeks of use, I noticed my desktop's fans stayed at a steadier speed, and the UPS never triggered a transfer to battery during a brief dip that would have otherwise caused a brief shutdown. The runtime numbers are often presented as up to X minutes at Y load, but the reality is that you rarely run a UPS at its maximum rated load. In my own setup about 600 watts total, I got roughly 12 minutes of backup before the unit started beeping for a graceful shutdown. That's more than enough time to close Photoshop files, save my work, and power down the storage array without risking corruption. If you push the load up to around 1,800 watts, the runtime naturally drops, but even then you still get about 4 minutes, which can be a lifesaver for a server that needs to finish writing logs before losing power. One practical weakness that shows up after a few weeks is the heat. The UPS draws a decent amount of power.